Hey everyone, it's time for some Graphing 101. You might be really good at graphing. If so, this video is not for you. So you get your stuff into y equals and you're like, okay, I have this equation. And then you're like, oh, now I need to graph it. I need a window. I have no idea. I might have big numbers, I might have small numbers. I don't know. So there's some good options for you. Option number one, so when you hit the button called zoom, Zoom 4 and Zoom 6 are my favorite. Zoom 4 is called Zoom Decimal, and it makes for a really small window, but it's a pretty tidy one. There's a reason they call it a decimal, and I'll show you that. The second window I use a lot is called Zoom Standard. Let's start with the Zoom Decimal. So I'd hit the 4. It's thinking, it's graphing, and that's all it gave me. That's not super helpful. It's kind of terrible, really. But I will show one thing. If I hit trace, the reason it's called Zoom Decimal, if I use my arrow keys, look at my x values. They're just going by 0.1. So it's called Zoom Decimal because it makes really nice numbers for your x's as you use the arrows for graphing. But for this window, this window is not great. So I'm going to go back to my zoom and I'll do a Zoom 6. This will give me a negative 10 to 10 window for both x and y. It's a little bit zoomed out compared to the decimal one. Once again, it's a little slow. We wait. It's what we do. And this is better, but really for showing a cubic, it's not what I need. So rather than doing a lot of guessing and checking and just going to my window and changing numbers around, I can be more methodical. The way to do that is using the table. So if I go second graph, right now my table, it's going by ones and for the x's, and I can see what my y values are doing. Looking at this, it allows me to go, oh, I need my y max to go a lot higher because I can look at those y values and realize that I need bigger numbers here. So I'm going to change this to say 200. For my scale, I could leave it, I could keep it the same. Now, if I were drawing this by hand and I were going up to 200, I might make my scale something like by 10s or 20s. So think about how you would do things as a human, and that will tell you how often you would draw those tick marks that you would do if you're doing it by hand, like 20, 40, 60, 80, or whatever. So I'll switch that to 20. If you don't feel like thinking that hard, you could actually put a 0 here and it just won't put any marks. That kind of helps too. So let's see how this looks. That looks like a really good graph, and it shows me everything I might want to know about this cubic. I can see the low spots, the high spots, and everything in between. So using the table will help you to figure out a good window. Now, rather than scrolling through the table, say I needed to know what was going on like at 100 or something like that, rather than just scrolling through the table, which gets old fast, if I go second window, the table set, and change the independent, which is my x's, to ask, it will make things easier. Changing dependent to ask ends up being a bunch of buttons to push. Yeah, it's annoying. Just don't. So going back to my table, it looks like I broke it because nothing is there, but now I can put in whatever numbers I want. Ooh, that's a really big number. I'm glad this showed up though. See that little e there? What that's saying is negative 9.2 times 10 to the 5th. It's a big number. Basically, it went to scientific notation because it couldn't fit the 918,000 and change into the calculator, especially with the negative there. But I can just type in any old value that I want, and it's pretty convenient. So using the table, especially setting it to ask for the x values, will help you to set your windows up. And that's my very short Graphing 101. Oh, never mind. I thought of another thing. See how the equal sign on this has a block around it? Anytime you type something in, it turns your equation on. If you go arrow so that you're blinking on the equal sign, I can hit enter. I just turned that second function off. So if I type a function in and I want it for later, but I don't want to get rid of it, I can hit enter on top of the equal sign and turn it on and off. So that's a nice little trick when you have multiple functions that you might need to return to.